Hello everyone. In this video, we will look at the techniques for inserting or importing files into an existing session or a new session for editing purposes. If you look at the top left hand corner around this place, you will notice that there are two icons. This one is used for opening a file and this one is used to import a file. If you want to open a file for editing purposes, you click on this icon and it's going to open up a dialog box from which you can choose the file that you wish to use. So I'm going to choose this file from the list and I'm going to click on open, and you'll notice that the file appears over here in this window, and along with that the file appears in a waveform in this particular window. We can also insert the file using the import option over here. Now, what is the difference between opening a file and importing a file? If I click on import now and I choose a file, for example from over here, and I click on open, the file appears in this list, but in this window over here I still have the old file visible that I had opened earlier. So both of these techniques can be used to insert a file in Audition for editing purposes. The difference though is a very minor one, where in both these cases the file would appear over here in this particular window, but if you choose to open the file, then it will also be opened in this waveform mode in this particular window. There is another way of opening the file. We can just go to file and click on open, and that's also going to open the same dialog box from which we can choose the audio file that we wish to import, like for example this one, and I'm going to click on open. Now, because I chose the open option, so therefore the file appears in the list over here, and along with that it has been opened in the waveform view in this particular window. There is another way of opening, yet another way. If I double click in this particular area, in the blank area, not actually on the files, on one of the files, I'm just going to click in the blank area over here, double click, and it will open up the dialog box, the same dialog box again, from which I can choose the file that I wish to open, and I click on this and look what happens. So this file has been opened. So these were the techniques for opening file for editing purposes in Adobe Audition. Now, what if you want to insert a file into an existing project? The technique for that would be to click on the file menu and then click on open append, and over here we'd say to current, for example, and this one opens up, and I'm going to click on this one, and you got to look at the waveform to see how it changes. See this waveform? When I choose to append this one, this is how it changes. Look, so you can see this waveform is still there, but it has been reduced width-wise to make room for the new file to be inserted. So the new file has been inserted after this file, like where this file ended, the new file has been inserted. So this is to be used when you're asked to insert a file into the same project or append the file after the existing one. Now, this was for editing a single file. Sometimes we are asked to use the multi-track view to have multiple files inserted into the project. So what does that mean? Now let's take a look at that. Audition offers two editing environments. One is the waveform view, which you can see over here. It allows the users to make changes to individual files. And the second one is the multi-track view, which is used for assembling recordings on a timeline and mixing them together. If you look at the top left-hand corner over here, we see two buttons, this and this. One is the waveform button and the other is the multi-track button. These allow you to quickly switch between the two modes when needed. Waveform view is designed for creating or editing a single audio file, whereas the multi-track view is the editing environment designed for placing multiple audio clips on a timeline to mix them together into a new file. For example, you can combine voiceovers, interviews, and background music to make a podcast, or you can add sound effects and narration to a video. Let's take a look at that. To start a multi-track session, you click on File, New, and then Multi-track Session, and that's going to open up a new window. Like, it's going to open up a dialog box which you can see in front of you. I'm going to call it Sample. This one is asking for the folder where it's going to be, where the project is going to be saved, or the session is going to be saved, and the other details, the ones that are relevant, the sampling rate, they hardly ask about that in the examination, but if they ever do, then in that case you would actually have to click on the down arrow and choose the relevant one that is applicable according to the instructions given in the paper. The bit depth, again, if mentioned in the paper, then you can choose it from over here. And this basically is a simple option that's used for choosing between mono and stereo. And most of the times the files that are provided to us are in stereo mode. I'm sure everyone knows the difference between stereo and mono. If you're asked to create a mono file project, then in that case you would choose this option. Otherwise you leave the default one, which is stereo, selected, and then you click on OK. When we do that, the window changes, the window where the waveform of the opened audio file was displayed changes to show a structure that shows 5 different tracks, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 different tracks currently Like if I scroll down, it would show more. See, 6 and then master. So there are multiple tracks visible over here. Now, each of these tracks are used to insert multiple files, multiple audio files. Like for example, if I wanted to insert this one over here, I'm just going to drag it over here and let go. Now, it's saying that the sample rate of the inserted file does not match the sample rate of the session. The reason for that is that I did not change the settings for the session, and I didn't actually compare them with the settings for this particular file. So that is why it's asking me if I want that to be matched, like if I want the settings of the session to be changed. For now, since I did not actually leave the options the way they were because of a requirement of the paper, so I'm just gonna click on OK to let it change it according to the sample rate of that particular audio to be inserted. And there we go, the file has been inserted, and you can see the waveform of that in this particular track. Now if I wanted another one over here underneath that in the different track, I just drag it like this and let go. Now the reason for a multi-track, as I mentioned earlier, is to allow multiple items to play together. Usually we do that in a scenario where we want some background music running in a relatively lower tone, and a voiceover which could be used by the person making the recording to explain what is being displayed in the video that's running. So we can have multiple voice or music files inserted in the different tracks that we have available. Now obviously if they're all playing at the same time, then in that case it would not be possible for us to make sense of them. But usually when we want something to stand out, then in that case we would have to dim the other ones, like reduce the sound of the other ones and increase the sound of the one that we would want people to be able to hear. So these were the techniques for inserting files, like a single file, and for inserting files in a multi-track mode where we could have multiple files inserted in a project. That's it for this lesson.